15 years ago, my world shattered. Rachel, the woman I had once believed was my forever, stood in the middle of our apartment, eyes cold, expression detached. A packed suitcase rested by the door. My chest tightened, a storm of emotions brewing inside me. "I can't do this anymore, Adam," she said, voice firm but void of warmth. "I need more. I deserve more." My throat felt dry, my pulse erratic. "Rachel, please, we can keep trying. There are options. Treatments, adoption, surrogacy. We don't have to give up." She scoffed, shaking her head. "You don't get it, do you? I don't want alternatives. I want my own child. I want to carry my husband's baby, to create a family together." Pain stabbed at my heart. "And you think I don't?" Her lips pressed together. "I've given this 5 years, Adam. I've watched my friends become mothers, held their babies, smiled through the pain, and pretended I wasn't dying inside. I can't live like this anymore." I clenched my fists, desperation clawing at my chest. "We vowed to stand by each other, through sickness and health, through the good and the bad. That was before I realized you'd never give me what I need," she cut in, her voice sharp as glass. "I love you, but love isn't enough. I want a real family." My entire body stiffened. "And I'm not enough?" Her silence was deafening. Something inside me cracked. "There's someone else, isn't there?" Rachel looked away, confirming my worst fear. Anger surged through me. "You didn't even wait, did you? You already found someone who could give you what I can't." Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't deny it. "I need to be happy, Adam." I swallowed the bitter lump in my throat. "And I was just an obstacle in your way." Her silence spoke volumes. She picked up her suitcase, hesitated at the door, then whispered, "I hope you find peace." The door clicked shut. And just like that, she was gone. The aftermath of betrayal. The days blurred into weeks. I barely left my apartment. Memories of Rachel haunted me, the way she used to trace her fingers down my arm, the way she'd giggle at my terrible jokes, the whispered dreams of our future together. All of it was a lie. I stopped responding to texts, ignored calls, and shut the world out. Every time I thought about her with someone else, rage boiled inside me. She had replaced me so easily, as if I were just a chapter she couldn't wait to close. Friends urged me to move on. "She wasn't worth it, Adam," they said. "You deserve better." But how do you move on when the woman you loved ripped your heart out and walked away without looking back? I drank to numb the pain, buried myself in work, spent sleepless nights replaying every conversation, every fight, every missed sign. Had I been blind? Had she always planned to leave? Then, one day, a mutual friend delivered the final blow. "She's pregnant." The words felt like a knife twisting in my gut. Rachel, the woman who had left me because I couldn't give her a child, was carrying another man's baby. I had never felt pain like that before. It wasn't just heartbreak, it was humiliation, betrayal, devastation. That's when something inside me changed. I refused to let her define me. If she could move on, then so could I. Rebuilding myself, determined to reclaim my life, I focused on success. Work became my escape. I took every opportunity, every challenge, every chance to climb higher. Late nights, early mornings, business trips, I embraced them all. And then, in the heart of Rome, fate intervened. Isabella. She wasn't like Rachel. She didn't demand, didn't expect, didn't judge. She simply existed, her presence warm and healing. I hadn't believed in love after Rachel, but Isabella was different. One evening, as we walked along the Tiber River, she turned to me, eyes shimmering under the moonlight. "Adam," she whispered, "I have something to tell you." A lump formed in my throat. The last time a woman had looked at me like this, she had walked out of my life forever. But Isabella smiled, and everything changed. "I'm pregnant." The world spun. I stared at her, unable to process her words. That's not possible." Her brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" I swallowed hard. "I was told. I couldn't have children. Confusion flickered in her eyes, then understanding. She took my hands, squeezing them gently. Adam, maybe they were wrong. Tears burned my eyes. Years of believing I was broken, years of suffering over Rachel's betrayal, all for nothing. I wasn't infertile. Rachel had left me for no reason. And she had no idea. That night, as Isabella rested her head on my shoulder, I made a silent promise. Rachel would one day know the truth. And when that day came, she would regret everything. Years passed, yet the memory of Rachel's betrayal remained buried beneath the life I built. My career flourished, my wealth expanded, and most importantly, I had a family, a real one. Isabella and I raised our son, Matteo, with love, laughter, and everything I had once believed was out of my reach. But fate had a cruel sense of humor. One evening, an invitation arrived, a high-profile charity gala hosted by a mutual acquaintance from my past. I almost declined. My life no longer included remnants of Rachel or the world she once inhabited. But something deep inside whispered go. And so I did. The unexpected encounter. The grand ballroom shimmered with golden chandeliers, the hum of conversation blending with soft violin melodies. I stood at the bar, sipping a whiskey, when a voice behind me made my blood run cold. Adam. I turned slowly, and there she was. Rachel. 15 years had passed, yet time had been kind to her. She still had the same piercing green eyes, the same soft waves of auburn hair cascading down her shoulders. But there was something else now, lines of regret, an air of sadness that hadn't existed before. For a moment she just stared, lips parted as if words had failed her. Then, she let out a shaky breath. "I can't believe it," she whispered. "It's really you." I forced a neutral expression, keeping my emotions locked away. "Hello, Rachel." She searched my face, her eyes flickering with something unreadable. "You look different. Successful. Happy." I took another sip of my drink. "I am." A sad smile played at her lips. "I'm glad. You deserve that." I said nothing. What was there to say? The woman who had once deemed me unworthy of her dreams now stood before me, trying to make small talk as if the past hadn't shattered me. She hesitated, then asked, "Are you married?" I could have toyed with her emotions, could have let her wonder. Instead, I lifted my hand slightly, revealing the wedding band that gleamed under the ballroom's golden lights. "Her name is Isabella," I said, watching her expression shift. "And we have a son." The moment the words left my mouth, Rachel's entire demeanor changed. She stiffened, her breath hitching. Her eyes darted to my ring, then back to my face. I saw the tremble in her fingers, the way she swallowed as if struggling to speak. "You," her voice wavered. "You have a son?" I nodded, a slow smirk tugging at my lips. "Yes. His name is Matteo." Rachel's face drained of color. She opened her mouth, then closed it, shaking her head slightly. That's not possible." My smirk deepened. "Ah, so she does the math. Why not?" I asked, feigning innocence. Her throat bobbed as she swallowed hard. "Adam, you told me you couldn't, that we." I leaned in slightly, voice smooth and deliberate. "Turns out, I was never infertile." Rachel's breath caught. Her pupils dilated. She looked like the ground beneath her feet had collapsed. The collapse of her illusion. For a moment, she was silent, her hands clutching her champagne glass as though it were the only thing anchoring her to reality. Then, barely above a whisper, she asked, "Were you lying to me?" A humorless chuckle escaped me. "No, Rachel. I believed what the doctors said, just like you did. But they were wrong." She exhaled sharply, blinking rapidly as if the weight of my words struck her with full force. "I left you because I thought." My jaw clenched. "You left me because you were impatient. Because you couldn't bear the idea of struggling with me. Instead, you ran straight into another man's arms." Her lower lip trembled. "Adam, I lifted a hand, cutting her off. "Save it." The pain I had carried for years no longer consumed me. Instead, I saw her for what she was, a woman who had chased an illusion, only to end up regretting the reality she created. Rachel's eyes glistened with unshed tears. I had no idea. If I had known, I scoffed. You would have stayed? Had my child instead? No, Rachel. You didn't love me. You loved the idea of a perfect life, and when I couldn't provide it on your timeline, you discarded me. She opened her mouth, then hesitated. A flicker of guilt flashed across her face. I did love you, Adam. You just what? I challenged. Found someone else the moment things got difficult? Had a child with him? Built the life you wanted, only to realize you made a mistake. Rachel flinched as if I had slapped her. For the first time, I saw it, the regret etched deep into her soul. The weight of her choices pressing against her shoulders. She swallowed hard. I thought I was doing the right thing. I let out a slow breath. And how did that turn out? Her silence spoke volumes. The final blow. Before she could answer, I felt a small tug at my jacket. I turned to see Matteo standing beside me, his bright hazel eyes that mirrored my own, looking up curiously. Dad, can we go now? Rachel's breath hitched. Her gaze snapped to my son, her hands trembling as she took him in, the unruly dark curls, the dimpled smile, the unmistakable resemblance to me. For the first time, I saw real devastation in her expression. She looked at me, voice barely a whisper. He looks just like you. I smiled, ruffling Matteo's hair. I know. Tears welled in Rachel's eyes. Adam, I took my son's hand and turned away. Goodbye, Rachel. And just like that, I walked away, leaving her with nothing but the weight of her regret. You said. Rachel's presence should have meant nothing to me. After all, I had everything I once believed was lost. A loving wife, a bright and joyful son, and a life that no longer carried the scars of betrayal. Yet, as I walked away from her, gripping Matteo's small hand in mine, I couldn't shake the look in her eyes. The sheer devastation, the silent realization that she had made the worst mistake of her life. 15 years ago, she had left me for another man, seeking the security she believed I could never provide. And now, fate had twisted her dreams into dust, forcing her to stare at the very thing she thought I was incapable of giving her. A son. As Matteo and I stepped outside the grand ballroom, Isabella was already waiting by the car. Her radiant smile lit up the night as she crouched down, arms wide open. There's my little gentleman. Matteo giggled, running into her embrace. Watching them together filled me with warmth. My wife, my child, my true family. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. A ghost that wouldn't fade. The next morning, as I sat in my study reviewing a contract, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but a strange feeling nudged me to pick up. Hello? A silence stretched on the other end before a familiar voice whispered, Adam. Rachel. I exhaled slowly. How did you get this number? I have my ways, she admitted. Please, don't hang up. I leaned back in my chair, fingers tapping against the desk. What do you want, Rachel? She hesitated, then said softly, I need to see you. I laughed, humorless and sharp. You've already seen enough. Please, she begged. I can't stop thinking about last night. About him. Matteo. My grip on the phone tightened. Why? Regret sinking in. Adam, I swear I didn't know, she breathed. I thought. I believed, she trailed off, as if the weight of her own foolishness was finally crashing down on her. I should have hung up. Should have told her she was 15 years too late. But a part of me, the part that still carried the scars she left, wanted to hear what she had to say. Fine, I muttered. One meeting. Then we're done. The meeting that shouldn't have happened. We met at a secluded cafe, away from prying eyes. Rachel arrived first, sitting at a corner table, her fingers nervously wrapped around a steaming cup of coffee. She looked up the moment I stepped in. Her eyes, once filled with arrogant certainty, now held something I had never seen before. Desperation. I slid into the seat across from her, arms crossed. talk. She swallowed hard, staring at her coffee as if gathering courage. After I left you, I married Nathan. I knew that name. The man she had chosen over me. We had a son, she continued, her voice wavering. Ethan. Something in her tone made my stomach twist. I didn't speak, waiting for her to go on. She took a deep breath. Ethan was born sick. A rare genetic disorder. We tried everything, but her voice cracked. He didn't make it past his 5th birthday. A flicker of sympathy crossed my heart, but I refused to let it take root. I'm sorry for your loss, I said, my voice measured. But why tell me this? Rachel lifted her gaze, eyes glistening with unshed tears. Because when I saw Mateo, it felt like I was looking at the life I was supposed to have. I clenched my jaw. You don't get to say that. She reached out as if to touch my hand, but I pulled away. I thought I was making the right choice, she whispered. I thought you and we had no future. I let out a bitter chuckle. And yet, here we are. Me with the life you abandoned. You, sitting here, drowning in regret. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Do you hate me? I exhaled, rubbing my temple. Once I did. But now. I shook my head. I don't feel anything for you, Rachel. Her lip trembled. Not even a little? I knew what she wanted. The past to be rewritten. A chance to undo what she had done. But some betrayals were permanent. I pushed back my chair and stood. Goodbye, Rachel. As I walked away, she didn't call after me. Because deep down, she knew. This time, I was the one leaving her behind. Rachel's presence had reawakened old memories, but it didn't hold power over me. Not anymore. Walking away from that cafe, I felt something unexpected. Relief. I had confronted the ghost of my past, and it no longer haunted me. The life I built wasn't an illusion or a consolation prize. It was real, solid, and mine. And nothing, especially not Rachel, could taint it. Home is where my heart is. When I arrived home, Isabella greeted me with her usual warmth, her eyes scanning my face. She knew something was on my mind. Everything okay? She asked, handing me a cup of tea. I took a sip, savoring the warmth. Yeah. Just some unfinished business finally laid to rest. She didn't push for details, trusting that if it mattered, I'd tell her. That was what I loved about her. No games, no mind tricks. Just trust. Mateo ran in a moment later, his boundless energy filling the room. Daddy, look, I drew our family. He proudly held up a crayon sketch, me, Isabella, and him, standing hand in hand under a bright yellow sun. My heart clenched in the best way possible. Rachel had lost everything, but I had gained more than I ever imagined. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. The final encounter. A week later, I received one last message from Rachel. I'm leaving town. I can't stay here anymore. Seeing him, it hurts too much. I'm sorry, Adam. For everything. Take care. I stared at the words, waiting for some kind of emotion to hit me. Regret? Sorrow? Pity? But there was nothing. Just the quiet satisfaction of a chapter truly closed. Without another thought, I deleted the message. A future without shadows. That night, I held Isabella close, pressing a soft kiss to her forehead as she drifted off to sleep. Rachel was gone, her mistakes hers to bear. But I was exactly where I was meant to be. And this time, I was the one who had the last laugh.